Hi, I'm Michelle. Welcome to my quilting beehive. Today I want to talk to you about mystery quilts. In front of me I have the very first quilt I ever made, and it was a mystery quilt. Back in 1997, I got a sewing machine for a Christmas present from my mother-in-law, and I decided I needed to make a quilt. So in 1998, every month for the year, we went to the quilt shop and picked up directions on how to make a quilt block piece, and I made my first quilt. And if I had ever seen that this is what it was going to look like, I don't think I would have thought I could do it. I would have thought it was too hard. But each month I'd go, and one month we had to make this little unit, and one month we had to make a little star, and one month we had to do a part of the corner. And because it was divided up in small pieces, I was able to make my first quilt with quite a complicated pattern. Now, I have to admit, I've become a better quilter since I started back in 1998, and my points don't match on this. And I had problems that I didn't know about quilting that I fixed over the years. And I like this quilt so much, I remade it. And I didn't have the pattern anymore because I didn't save it back then. So I remade the quilt. I took the old quilt and I said, oh, what do I need? And I broke it down into parts and I redesigned it so I could make it again. And in my new version, all the points match. So about 10 years passed between the first one and the remake of it. But mystery quilts have always been something I really enjoy doing. So what is a mystery quilt? A mystery quilt is just a quilt pattern that you don't know what it's going to look like until it's all done. So each month you get a part or a piece of the quilt, and eventually you put them all together and it becomes a big quilt. I made my first mystery quilt pattern in the year 2020. For my quilt guild, they asked if I'd do a mystery quilt as a program for them. And so that was the Marvelous Stars pattern, which is available in my Etsy shop now. If you're interested, you can click on the link down in the description below and find that. It was so much fun that I decided to keep going, and I did another mystery quilt in 2021. In 2022, I partnered with Colchester Mill Fabrics and Quilting of Colchester, Connecticut, and we made the Colchester Mill My Quilting Beehive Marvelous Mystery Quilt. That was the first year that I started making YouTube tutorials to go with my mystery quilt, and we had a private Facebook group, and we worked together to make the quilt, which was called Pie in the Sky at the end because this block is called the Blueberry Pie block. And I had fabric that I thought was sky-like, so I'm calling mine the Pie in the Sky Marvelous Mystery Quilt. And then in 2023, we worked together and I brought in some dazzling diamonds. I made even more YouTube videos. Over 200 people worked with me to make the Marvelous Lone Star quilt that is now revealed. And you know, these first two quilts, they don't look anything like each other, and the third quilt is not going to look like them at all either, but it's going to be marvelous. And now we're getting ready for the Colchester Mill Marvelous Mystery for 2024. And this year, the quilt, it's going to be marvelous. I want to talk to you a little bit about fabric selection. So to pick your fabric, there are 6 fabrics that you will need to make this quilt. And if you're interested, click on the link below and you can get a detailed list of what fabrics and how much to buy of each. But just when you're looking at your fabric, the most important thing for you to consider is contrast. If you took any of the fabrics and put it next to any of the other fabrics, you want to make sure that they don't blend in together. So that will help to make sure that in the end your design will show up and it won't get lost because they blend together. So when I started picking my fabrics, I actually started with this one. It's a beautiful Aboriginal print, and I just loved it. I don't know, it was fun. It made me smile, and you want a fabric that makes you smile. So I started with that, and that happens to be my number 5 fabric in my quilt. And then I went through and I pulled fabrics that I thought had the same color family and kind of went together. This one on the bottom is my background fabric, and you'll see that all the other fabrics are going to pop off of it. They're not going to blend in. They're going to pop off from the fabric, and that's important. Some people have asked if they can use a dark background. You can use a dark background. Just reverse everything. If you have a dark background, use lighter colors as long as they pop and stand off of the background so they don't blend in. You will be just fine. So my background is a neutral, and this was the one I pulled all my colors from, and I went through and I liked how the oranges looked with it. This one's another Aboriginal print, and I liked how they pulled the colors together. Both of these have some green in it, so I pulled a little bit of green to go with them. And then if you read the directions, it tells you that your fabric 5 and your fabric 6 should be the same color, but a lighter and a darker. When I look at this, I kind of think it's a green fabric, but if you look carefully, there's a lot of black in the background as well. So I decided to go with the black as my dark, and this one is green with some blacks and a lot of other colors in it. And that's okay. They don't have to be solid tone on tones. You can choose 2 fabrics, a lighter version and a darker version. Multicolored is fine, but you want them to go together. Those 2 are going to be used together in a special way later in our quilt. It does recommend that fabric 3 be a fun, interesting fabric. That one is kind of a focus of the quilt. You'll have a lot of focus, and so that's why I picked this one. I kind of bent the rules a little because it said fabric 2 should be lighter and fabric 3 should be a little darker, but I really loved this fabric. So I decided that's going to be my fabric 3 that I have a little pop of coming of the fun, interesting fabric going for me there. So when you pick your fabric, think about contrast, most important thing. If you bend the rules a little bit, I'm okay with that. Bend the rules a little bit, but make sure all the fabrics, no matter which 2 you put together, will contrast, 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 contrast. And then in the end, when you see your quilt all finished, it will definitely work because all the pieces will pop and none of them will mix together and you won't lose the design of the quilt. This mystery quilt is going to be written with beginners in mind. So if you've never made a quilt, you can start with this one and it will be fine. You need to know how the basics of sewing, how your sewing machine works and how to thread it and those kind of things. But if you've never made a quilt before and you know how to use your sewing machine, this quilt will be for you. I'll have video tutorials to show you any of the difficult parts. We have a private Facebook group that you can join and you can write questions. Anytime you have questions, I can answer them for you. And other people in the group are great for answering questions. And it's just a lot of fun. We had over 200 people making the quilt with us last year. And that group was very active and people were very encouraging and showing pictures of what they've done and problems they had. And we all used our seam ripper a few too many times. But we had a group that was there to support us through all the difficult times too. So I hope you're interested, and if you have questions, feel free to reach out. The link is in the description below on how to register. It's a one-time fee, $25, covers all the costs for the year, and you'll get all the patterns from February. The first Friday of February will be the first pattern through November, and it'll be the first Friday of each month, so it'll be 10 patterns, and I hope you'll join us. Thanks.